Well, here we have yet again our late 8 movement, and in today's video I'm going to try and identify the issues, because I'm going to be taking this thing apart today, and I'm going to be trying to identify the issues with it. So these movements are a bit of an odd one. These ones, the Scottish ones, aren't riveted together, so that's good. You can take them apart. But the hairsprings are very, very fiddly, mainly because they are not pinned in like a conventional hairspring, but they are glued in with what looks like nail polish, but it's actually a plastic type glue. Now, there are lots of ways to remove it. You can either chip it away like this, or you can dissolve it with alcohol. Those are the two main methods I know of. I've had about the same success rate with both of them. Usually when one doesn't work, I try the other one. So I'm just going to start with the chipping method because it gets the bulk out of the way. And then if I need to get the excess off, then I'll go in with some alcohol, isopropyl alcohol, and see if that does anything. I think it's really acetone you want to use on these, but I don't have any of that. Okay, I think we're doing pretty well. Yeah, we got it out. Alright, let's get some tweezers. Oh, there they are. And we need to remove the hairspring from its little stud. Get this excess off. It's difficult to sort out. It's very fiddly. There we go. Right. Hopefully I've not done any lasting damage to the hairspring in the process. Unslot it through the regulator when it's come back around again. And then we should be good to just undo our balance wheel or balance cub. And that is the hardest part out of the way. Oh, we got a dangler. There we go. And as you can see, they're surprisingly resilient, but I wouldn't take any chances with them. And that is a good result. We have not damaged it in any way. The end is slightly kinked, but that is beyond where it goes through the stud. I'll just try and unkink it anyway. It's not really something I need to worry about because it's after it goes through. But yeah, the points on this are still pretty sharp. Very sharp, in fact. And now we have the other challenge, which is removing the knobs. Now, the knobs on these can be removed. They may seem a bit frustrating to tackle at first, but I assure you that they are removable. And this is a Scotland made one I'm talking about here. Now, the earlier ones were easier to remove because they had a slit in them. However, the later ones are still removable. So I'm just going to use these pliers, which are rounded on the bottom. And I'm going to find a spot where there's no pivot hole. So just probably in between these two. And I'll line it up like that. Make sure the pliers are not touching any of the plastic pivots or metal or whatever they are. Put it up like that. And oh, I need some bigger pliers. Hang on a second. So I have some longer pliers. And I'm going to do the same thing between those two pivot holes. So I do not break the pivots by levering up against them. Oh, these are too big. No happy medium. Let's try these. Right. Maybe I can do it from a different angle. Yeah, I just need to open these up a bit more, that's it. Like that. Nearly there. I think we're making some progress. But these are not nice. Right, it's still a bit difficult. It's something I will try. Don't know what I'm doing here, but I think it might have some. Usually that method with the pliers works well, but I'm usually using a different pair of pliers and I can't find the ones I usually use. Alright, give me a couple of minutes and I'm going to try and devise a method. Right, there's another method I just remembered. And what it is essentially, this is being put on because the hole was a smaller circle than the thing was thick, so it's stuck on really hard. So if I just crush the aluminium very, very slightly, it'll deform the hole and no longer have it gripping, and we can easily reform it. So if I give it a quick squeeze like that, a couple more squeezes, just squeeze it around a little bit, I think maybe we might be deforming the thing a little bit, and then maybe it'll be easier to take off. Oh, look at that. Well, that worked. And to get it back on again, all I need to do is squeeze it. Now it's off the pole. When I squeeze it this time around, using some pliers, it'll make it smaller again. So good tactic to know, if you don't mind scratching up your knobs, that is. Because that'll be hidden behind the back of the case. And with this one, you don't need to worry about removing that one. You can if you want to, but I don't do that because it comes out. You can still take it apart without that in there. And I normally do a thing about letting the power down, but on these ones I don't think you can really do it. with the because the older ones had a spring going around the outside of it, and you could let the spring down by putting your thing underneath the spring or pushing on the end of the spring tail. However, with this one, I'm not sure how exactly you're supposed to let these down, but luckily I'm in a predicament where the actual spring is broken and I don't need to have to let it down because there's no power stored up in it. So I'm just going to go ahead and undo these, being very careful of the pivots because they protrude out there. And if you catch one of those plastic or metal pivots with your pliers when you're turning them around, or sockets, whatever you're using, then you can bend them. And if you bend a pivot, it'll be very difficult to get it back to straight again because it needs to be super straight, otherwise it'll cause unnecessary friction. So I'll undo these nuts. And you can either remove these nuts first, or you can remove this shield first for the this keeps all the motion work on there, but actually it's easier to remove the nuts first, take the plates apart, and you can undo the shield in a slightly easier way because there aren't any nuts hidden behind this at all. So just undoing these little brass nuts. And I'm very happy that they chose not to rivet this together and still to retain its serviceability. Because when you rivet a movement together, that really says that, you know, you don't want people opening this up again. And the power of that spring launched that thing at my hand, so be careful. I should be able to just pull this out. There we go. So that's the front plate. That's the motion work in there. And to get that shield off, just unbend these, which is now you can see why it's a lot easier to do it after you take the plate off. And you should have either a brass or a plastic hour thing. The alarm knob, this does not get removed, and it's a very lightweight piece of aluminium. Don't remove this either. And yeah, depending on the age of your movement, you will see something that looks similar to this with a different arrangement of materials. For example, you might see all brass, all steel, some plastic, or all plastic. This I call an all plastic movement. I don't think they ever made the pallets plastic. So this is a very late one. Different types of plastic in here as well. There's a opaque plastic and there's transparent plastic. These parts should all come out. And this here is our repeat mechanism, so remember this piece here, because they were very clever. And if you saw my video on my Rita the Repeater Good Morning, it's not called that, it's just called Repeating Good Morning Experiment or something, then you will see one of these movements. And that is because I sort of used parts from one of these movements, which I didn't have a case for, to make a repeating movement. And these movements are basically, I don't know why they didn't do it earlier, but they managed to condense all of this down into the size of a baby Ben, just put it in there and made the repeating part of this. So you could make a repeating baby Ben, or you can make a repeating clock which uses a smaller movement with a single key and just make it into a repeater for very easiness. So I think that's all of the parts out of the way. So what's wrong with this spring? Is it the spring itself, or is it the oh, that doesn't look good, does it? This should be a ratchet, but it's not engaging at all. No worries. This is where the benefit of having spare parts comes in. Look at all of these. I reckon I have a couple of those going around somewhere. My Westclox exclusive parts box, full of Westclox parts. See if you can identify the movements these are from. I know, but I suppose it's a good exercise for the brain if you intend on ever wanting to identify movements based on the parts. Got a couple of 66s, loud alarms, baby Bens. I hope I've... Oh, here's one. Is this... This is the piece I need. Look, this ratchet is engaging properly. It turns one way, but it does not turn the other one. I think my other one might have worn out teeth on it, because this does not engage in any direction, whereas this one engages properly. So I'll just compare these to see if they are indeed identical. Do they have the same amount of teeth? Yeah, I think they are in fact the same part. Okay, well, that's what I'm going to do now, is I'll put all these back in the Westclox box. The West box. And here is our old one, which does not engage properly. Looks like the teeth are worn down. I don't know how that happened. Maybe someone was particularly ferocious with winding it up. And this one is the good one. So I'll just check it engages with every tooth. Because if there's one loose tooth on here that's not good, then it could cause it to backtrack an unnecessary amount and cause damage. And also to check if there's no medium ground where it does not engage, and it looks like that is not the case, so that's good. Bit dirty, I'll clean it up later with all the other parts, but put this one away in my Westclox box. Missed the box, oops. And let's check our spring as well. I think the spring is actually okay. Although the thing on the end of it, this little star-shaped thing, looks a bit worn out to me. Looks like it's whatever it's been going up against has worn some grooves in it. And that does not look ideal, so I'll see if I have a spare one of those as well. See if I can focus on it. Doesn't want to focus. There we go. You can see it's got some grooves worn in it. And that is not a good thing. Because it could wear down some more, and potentially if there's a load of spring power behind there, then it's not good. So I'll just check again in the Westclox box. I think I might have a couple of them going around. Oh, I've got a nice brass one, I'll put that on there. In fact, this whole spring barrel's quite nice, isn't it? But I'm not going to interchange parts because that's not original. Here's one. Right. Are these the same part? I think, yeah, they are. Alright, so I'll use this one. And also, let's check our actual spring. That looks okay to me. I'll put a bit of oil in it. I don't really intend on removing this because it looks so clean already. So I'll put a bit of oil in it. I think I might use 3-in-1 oil because it's a heavier piece of equipment than the rest of the clock. But this is the only application I'll be using anything lighter than clock oil. And a very, very tiny spray. Just to soak it in there. Give it a couple of winds. Clean off the excess as well. Yeah, you can see this is plastic. Pop that on there. And then I think we should be hunky-dory. I'll just hammer that on with some hammers. Right, looks like we got it. And it's still pretty smooth moving. So I think this is our one part fixed out. So let's try out putting everything back in. Not everything, but all the stuff that means it will wind up. So that will be this piece, of course. I think it goes there. The spring barrel. And I think that's about right. Yeah, and what else? Oh, the alarm hammer I think I'll need in there as well. And maybe a wheel just to get to grips with. Right, so if I put these back on, we can see if we fixed out our alarm issues or our winding issues. Okay. Looks like our stopworks wheel is. Oh no, that's fine. It's just on a spring. Okay. So I'll put these in like this, and then we should be able to just see if it winds up properly or not. If we've fixed our problems. So put the key on as normal. Sorry about the long video. And have we fixed it? Ah, look. It winds up. That's because of our ratchet being in good condition. So the power is still behind the hammer, but of course in normal circumstances the hammer will be off because it won't be ringing constantly. And also in the wheels, which are spinning freely, like that. So with both outlets closed, one by the balance wheel not letting the wheels go and the other by the hammer being off, this should withhold its power, and it is. I'm not going to wind it up all the way because that will take too long to let down. But as you can see, we seem to have fixed our winding problem, and we can undo the key without it going around and around, which is good. So I'll leave you guys here until the next video. Thanks for watching, and hopefully, or maybe, you have been able to fix your own Big Bens. There we go.